When humanity was first acknowledged by the Galactic Council, they didn't attract much attention, merely noted for their basic tolerance to both heat and cold and a respectable power-to-weight ratio. Their only slightly impressive trait was being one of the few non-apex predator species to achieve sentience and eventually enter the space age. However, they were also seen as a species lacking honor. Even the loss of a single leader could ignite a succession war that would rage for years. In essence, while not the worst in the galaxy, they were far from exemplary. The Taraxi were the first galactic race to recognize and plan to exploit humanity's weaknesses. They waited patiently for the inevitable spark that would plunge human civilization into chaos and war. 27 years after their recognition by the Council, that spark ignited an inferno of conflict that consumed the entirety of humanity. The images from that first week of fighting still haunt me. It's unfathomable how a species can inflict such merciless death upon its own people, with no compassion, no honor, only the cold precision of slaughter. As the human conflict neared its end, the Taraxi launched their assault. Millions of Taraxi troops and battleships flooded into human-controlled territories, toppling planet after planet, and millions of humans perished. The rest of the galaxy looked away, unwilling to be drawn into the catastrophe. Some even aided the Taraxi by supplying provisions and weaponry in exchange for newly conquered human territory. It seemed that humanity was doomed. Yet instead of slipping quietly into extinction, humans did something unimaginable. They united. In a matter of weeks, years of animosity and hatred vanished. Those who had vowed to annihilate each other just months before had now greeted one another as brothers. The once unstoppable Taraxi advance ground to a halt. After seizing nearly 73% of human territory in 6 weeks, they failed to advance even a single light year after 8 months of relentless conflict. In doing so, the Taraxi inadvertently forged a common enemy for humanity. 2 years into the Taraxi invasion, the unthinkable began to occur. The Taraxi were being pushed back. Their media claimed it was a strategic maneuver designed to inflict massive casualties on the humans. Whether that was true or not, humans were channeling enormous resources to reclaim their territories. And once recaptured, those lands were never relinquished. As a colleague explained, the humans had simply dug in, an almost unthinkable strategy to sit on reclaimed territory and force the enemy to come to them. And come they did. The Taraxi relentlessly battered the human defensive lines until, just when it seemed the humans were content with their regained territory, massive counteroffensives forced the Taraxi into yet another disorganized retreat, a tactic as audacious as it was brutally effective. The Taraxi wouldn't admit it then, and probably never will, but they were losing. 6 years had elapsed since the onset of what had become the largest war in 5 centuries of galactic history. The Council had assumed that once humans had regained all of their lost territory, the hostilities would cease. Clearly, they had been mistaken. Not only did the humans continue fighting even after reclaiming their lands, but it also became apparent that they were determined to eliminate the threat to their species once and for all. The humans craved blood. They demanded revenge for the blood of their own spilled by Taraxi hands, and nothing would stand in their way. In one of the most ironic twists of fate, the Taraxi now found themselves fighting for their very survival. In a state of panic, the Council convened an emergency peace conference between the humans and the Taraxi. To everyone's surprise, the humans agreed, and thus the first ceasefire since the war's outbreak was established. Representatives from the Taraxi, humans, and the 9 council races gathered at the peace talks. The negotiations proceeded smoothly, and once again the humans astonished everyone by conducting themselves with dignity and speaking with reason and understanding to the council races. However, they firmly refused to engage with the Taraxi. In hindsight, this might have foreshadowed future events, though at the time I believed it was understandable. I was part of the diplomatic mission, hopeful that the conflict's end was near, until the subject of reimbursement was raised by the Taraxi. Claiming their right as the conquered party, they demanded monetary compensation for any land still held by human forces at the time the treaty was signed. The entire human delegation fell silent as they listened to the Taraxi ambassador's announcement. After a long pause, one human member finally spoke. "Please tell me this is some kind of joke to mark the start of peace." The Senai representative responded firmly, "Of course not. They have every right to ask for this, and it is your duty to comply. Failing to do so is simply—" He paused momentarily. "Incomprehensible." Once more silence befell the human party until their leader calmly rose and declared, "You will have our answer within the hour." Without another word, he departed the room, followed silently by the rest of the human delegation. The council, pleased with the outcome of the negotiations, collectively exhaled in relief. It seemed that the humans were willing to step back. We waited expectantly for a formal acceptance of peace. Precisely on the hour, the council received a message from the human leader. For several seconds, the video screen displayed only him, silent, unmoving, his gaze fixed on us with an odd intensity. "Blasted human emotions," the Senai member remarked suddenly. "So damn hard to read. Computer, identify emotion." The computer chimed as it completed its analysis. "Emotion identified, barely contained raw." Before it could finish, the human leader interrupted. "My dear council members," and then turned his smile toward the Taraxi representative. "Member for the Taraxi, I regret to inform you that we cannot accept the terms for peace as they currently stand." A profound silence fell over the room, the first since the talks began. Still smiling at the Taraxi member, he added, "However, we are willing to compromise." At that moment, a Taraxi soldier burst into the room. "Sir, the human ships are on the move." The video feed split into two. One half showed the human leader still smiling, while the other revealed the Taraxi homeworld, encircled by the entire human armada. The Taraxi representative sputtered in disbelief. "What? How? When did you do this?" The human leader maintained his smile. Then, without warning, the human armada opened fire. In mere seconds, thousands of years of Taraxi culture were incinerated, and billions of innocents perished before they could comprehend the horror unfolding. One of the galaxy's greatest empires was erased. No one moved, not a single sound was heard, not even the Taraxi's grief. The human leader then spoke again. "As you can see, we have decided to compromise. 16 billion of my fellow humans have died since the onset of this conflict." Every eye turned toward him, trying to fathom the massive loss of life. "I believe that trading 10 billion innocent Taraxi for 16 billion innocent humans is more than a fair compromise," he continued, the word compromise dripping with venom and scorn. "As a race, we are now open to any negotiation of peace." "Are you insane?" roared the Senai member. "You have just declared war on the entire Galactic Council." "Peace? This is as far from peace as any being can get. There will be no peace until your vile race is wiped out, erased even from the memories of my grandchildren." The human leader then turned his still smiling face toward the Senai member. "Good," he said, no longer containing the rage blazing in his eyes. "I was hoping you'd say that." 14 days have passed since the Taraxi-human war ended. There was no peace treaty, no surrender, no ceasefire. One side simply ceased to exist as a people. It has been a long 14 days since the Galactic Council declared war on the humans. In that time, 4 council races have defected, disgraced by the council's initial inaction and failure to prevent the massive loss of human life during the early stages of the Taraxi-human conflict. Each of these defecting races had voted to halt the Taraxi when they first began showing interest in the humans, but were bullied into inaction by the Senai. It is unthinkable that 4 races have abandoned the council. But then again, this is the first time in 570 years that the council has been at war, and never before has it been at war with itself. In just 34 years, humans have torn down millennia of tradition, cooperation, and understanding. "Oi, mate," my new friend said with a grin as he roused me from my daydream. He was absent-mindedly picking his nails with a metallic close combat weapon. "Not having second thoughts about me, are you?" I grinned back. "Not on your life, my friend. This will be the first time in nearly 600 years that the Onarok have gone to war. I glanced at my friend and my grin broadened. No, no, my friend. On the contrary, it's been far too long. This will be fun. His grin burst into a hearty laugh. Just stay alive long enough, and I'll show you how to cook the perfect steak. I shook my head at him. Humans truly are insane.